The third part, I will speak a bit about the advance of PAS. How PAS have been moving forward from a rural-based regional party to an increasingly urban national party. Now, the 71st PAS Congress or Muktamar PAS held in Alustar on the 11th to the 16th of September this year is a very important. It's a landmark congress, a historic congress. What happened is that while a few hardline old guards remain uncontested, like president, deputy, vice president, and then a few other posts, senior posts, PAS members, PAS delegates elected the second echelon leadership, many of them professionals. And some journalists noted that among the professionals, 6 are PhD holders. Now, this does not mean anything. Some PhD holders are useless in terms of politics, but nevertheless, it is something for credibility. But what they did was part and parcel of preparation for generational transition. At that Congress, PAS rebranded itself as government in waiting, with its political ambition set on Putrajaya. So, from a state-based or regional party, PAS has become more urban and national, but with roots in rural areas. I think that's very important. National, urban, and national, but the roots are in rural areas. Now, the PAS Secretary General, Taqiyuddin, at the opening of the Congress in Alustar, said the following: PAS has 1.3 million members. Every month, PAS consistently receives between 2,000 to 3,000 new members. What motivated them and keeps them together is the spirit of cooperation or ta'awun and muafakat of consensus. And PAS stands together through Pakatan National Coalition with the support of allied parties, Gerakan and 1 or 2 other small parties. And the conclusion is, we are a government in waiting. Okay, that is a very bold statement. Now, over the months, PAS was challenged regarding who its candidate will be for the Prime Minister. Now, in PAS, you have got the wing of, what do you call it, the unit of elders, and headed by a spiritual leader, Mursyidul Am, and previously it was Tok Guru Ni Aziz, and currently it is under Hashim Jassim, the PAS spiritual leader. Now, when he was posed with the question who the PAS candidate will be for the Prime Minister, should PAS take over the Putrajaya, now his response was something like this: setakat macam Anwar, PAS boleh cari 3-4 lori calon PM. Now, for those who are not that familiar with the expression in Malay, even with Anwar standards, PAS can find 3 or 4 lorries of candidates for the Prime Minister. Now, maybe there is a boast, maybe there's just a rhetoric, but the problem is that they take it seriously. But the question of generational transition becomes more urgent now for PAS, because Haji Hadi Awang is in bad health, in poor health. He's 77, younger than Anwar, but he has got heart condition and is on a wheelchair. And when he spoke at the Congress, he spoke on the wheelchair. And the Mursyidul Am, the spiritual leader, Hashim Jassim, is also not in good health. But so they are depending a lot now on the second echelons of leadership. Now, there are two analyses actually I want to pick here from the journalists. One is from Jocelyn Tan, her write-up in the Star in 20th September 2025. The title of Jocelyn's write-up or opinion piece is "Will the Green Wave Reach Urban Malays?" And then she drew attention to the past Congress, which I spoke about just now, and made the following comments. First, she asserts that the green wave is for real and has not subsided. Second, the rise of educated professionals elected into the new Central Committee. Third, the new lineup has the potential to appeal to urban and West Coast Malays. Fourth, its sights are on Putrajaya, step by step inching towards the goal of forming the federal government. In fact, PAS has started building its new headquarters on a piece of land just outside Putrajaya. So some predict that PAS could even win up to 80 seats in GE16. And Jocelyn notes that many Malays are terrified at this prospect of the so-called the emergence of a Taliban-type government. Now, this is one view by Jocelyn Tan in the Star. Now, I am also referring to another view about the rise of PAS, written for Malaysia Kini by Guna Sigaran. Now, Guna says that although PAS support has risen and fallen with the times, the long-term history shows that it follows a rising trajectory. That is an important point. And as though in answer to Jocelyn Tan's comments about the fear of the non-Malays, Guna Segaran says that PAS rhetoric is to assuage non-Malays and non-Muslim apprehension over its rule, with its president Abdul Hadi Awang even saying that PAS will take care of minority religions and interests. Now, there is a very important point there, is overtures to non-Malays and non-Muslims. Now, he also says that while Bersatu needs PAS to win, PAS can win without Bersatu. In other words, Pakatan Nasional is now, the big brother there is PAS. Bersatu now has become quite secondary. Now, Guna Sigaran also notes that PAS has stamina for the long term and can count on a strong Malay base of around 30% through thick and thin. And he also says, in many areas, UMNO has won previously against PAS only because of non-Malay support. Now, the two views from these two journalists seem to more or less reinforce each other. Now, what can we make of these developments? So I come now to the last part, the conclusion. Can the Madani government under Anwar rule for a second term? Now, of course, this is a lot of probabilities, but let's look at some of the facts, some of the developments. Now, the first question is, will incumbency give the Madani government an advantage? That means the fact that they are the government, the incumbent, will it give them added advantage? So my view is that incumbency can be both a boon or advantage and can also be a bane. BN under Najib was incumbent until 2028, but it collapsed in GE14 in May 2018 after 60 years of rule. So in this case, incumbency turned out to be a bane. Why the collapse, despite the long incumbency? There are major reasons. Of course, the one MDB is the biggest of all scandals. There are many other scandals, but one MDB was the biggest, and that's the one that cracked the camel's back, that broke the camel's back. There was also, of course, the arrogance, the complacency, and the disconnect with the rakyat. And secondly, the other side of the coin is that the zeitgeist, the spirit of the age, was the huge demand for change expressed through the reformasi movement. We all know that, and I'm just summing it up. The reformasi movement since 1998, which eventually overthrew the UMNO BN government in May 2018. Now, if we look at the Madani government, the current Madani government, it's very new, hardly 3 years. At the moment, it has no major scandal. I'm not saying that it has no scandal, but has no major scandal. And in fact, it is working hard to crack down on corruption, especially mega corruption, and strengthen good governance. The main complaint from the reformasi supporters is that it is too slow in bringing reforms. Now, that's point one. That incumbency can be an advantage, but it can also be a constraint. Now, secondly, what is the spirit of the age or the zeitgeist? Is there a popular uprising in the making? Are there ingredients for a Gen Z revolution like what happened in Nepal recently? Or ingredients for mass revolt like in Indonesia? Now, I don't think there are such things happening or developing in Malaysia in the last few years. There's a lot of dissatisfaction, lots of grumbling here and there, but it has not reached the level of what happened in Indonesia, nor like in Nepal. But still, there are grumblings, there are dissatisfactions, and so on, which need to be addressed. Thirdly, the Madani government can make use of the advantage of incumbency to win on condition they stand as partners as in the coalition and they do not fight one another. Now, this is not a guarantee because, as I said earlier, it is a coalition of former bitter enemies. But over the 3 years, some have seen eye to eye and some seem to have been able to work together. But there are those who are not happy with that. Nevertheless, the coalition partners need to strengthen the culture of mutual respect and cooperation and deliver better results for the rakyat in the coming 2 years. Fourth, can the Madani government make reverse inroads into SG4? There's some discussions about this. My view is that it is possible, but only in pockets. At the moment, the outlook is not that there'll be any major change in SG4. Now, finally, given the current trends, there is a greater probability that the Madani government will return for a second term in G16. But in these 2 years, remaining 2 years, they must work extra hard to deliver what the rakyat needs and do not make major blunders. Now, what about the chances of PN, especially PAS? I envisage 2 scenarios. Scenario 1, on balance, for GE16, based on current trends, PAS will remain a government in waiting, as stated by its Secretary General. But we have to take note that PAS has the capacity for the long haul. As stated by some commentators, it has the stamina for that. Its sites for Putrajaya remain unchanged. And the crop of younger leaders elected at the last Congress will lead the charge. That's scenario one. Scenario two is that taking note that political developments are dynamic, new alignments and coalitions can and may emerge. 2 years appear it's not long, but still things can happen within the next 2 years. So I raise a question here: will PAS take this shortcut route in its journey to Putrajaya? In this journey to Putrajaya again, because they were once in Putrajaya, by seeking new partners? It's possible and probable is if interests converge. Now, people say that politics is the art of the possible. I rephrase it as politics is the art of the impossible made possible. Now, can the Madani coalition handle this? Can it preempt this from happening? It may be able to do so if it wins big and with a convincing victory. Now, I think that's all that I want to share.